Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sug Talks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted today to be joined by Ray Wang, Principal Analyst and Founder of Constellation Research. As many of you know, Ray's been a very popular keynote speaker at our annual user conference. And in addition, Ray's authored a couple of white papers for us, the most recent being published last year on navigating the SAP High Road to 2027. So welcome, Ray.
Craig, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, and really excited to be on your podcast.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And just before we get into our discussion, which is going to center around your new book, we were chatting a little bit earlier, but you're known to rack up the air miles, and obviously I also have seen that you've been getting to travel a bit more recently. But how have you found things over the last 18 months, and are you enjoying being able to get back on the road a little now?
Well, I think the mass traveling didn't start till about May in 2021. But during the pandemic, I've had opportunities to travel, and I think it's been amazing. Right? There's been very few lines. There's very few queuing. You can get around very easily. But after May 2021 in the U.S., it just was a free for all. It was very, very crazy, very, very hectic. I don't think we were staffed up for it, and so it's been a little bit more challenging. But the delightful part is you get to meet people. You get to see people, you can connect with them, you can have the conversations, the serendipity is back. And I think that's what people are really excited about.
Yeah, excellent. And one of the things you've obviously been able to do through the pandemic is to write a new book. Everybody wants to rule the world, surviving and thriving in a world of digital giants. And I think recently you've been traveling the US on a promotional tour.
Yeah, we have. I've done, I'm in my 19th city in the last 60 days. We've been going to each different city, having small lunches, small gatherings, getting people together. We want to let people know that digital transformation is not enough. We got to digital channels. We might have gotten to digital business model. Everything was tested during COVID-19. And what it did was really challenge folks to think about their monetization models. And so what the book does is it helps people think about what digital businesses should be looking like, what a digital giant is, how to compete with them. And then, of course, we get into the conversation about what's required to regulate digital giants to make sure we have fair and free markets. And that's where we start putting together the tech and the policy all into one. But the book tour has been amazing. I'm all over the country. I've got maybe one last stop in San Francisco. We'll see what kind of rules we have to encounter, but we're hoping to do that sometime in September.
Oh, fantastic. And, thank you for introducing us to some of the main themes that, I'd like to probably drill into as we have our chat. Just to start things off, what led you to write the book in the first place?
Yeah, so what happened in 2015 when the first book came out was we discovered what digital business was. We explained to people why it was so important. We talked about why you should be setting up for digital transformation. You had us come speak. You had me come speak a couple times about it. And it was quite foreign. I mean, most folks were like, why would I do this? I'm just trying to get stuff into the cloud. And they were right? We're quite ahead of the market. But what's happened over the last 3 to 4 years is an acceleration of those trends. And to give you an example, when we look at digital giants, right, we know them as Facebook and Google and Apple and Amazon and Microsoft and Netflix. In 2017, their combined market cap was $2 trillion US. In 2021, as of maybe a few weeks ago, they were at $10 trillion. Right? Never before in the history of companies have we seen companies that size grow at 30 to 40% and quintuple their total market cap in such a short period of time. Right? And they're obviously working on a digital business model and a business model that is unlike any other and a monetization model unlike any other. And there's a lot to be learned for most companies.
It is incredible, and I think in some way, shape or form as well, the pandemic has accelerated some of that growth. in the past year, where some organisations have faltered and have gone out of business. A lot of the digital giants have improved and grown dramatically. And who did you speak to when writing the book?
We spoke to about 10,000 customers, partners, investors, people inside digital giants. We talked to companies that were trying to figure out trends and trend analysis. A lot of our clients who are digital transformation experts, the ones that often get named to our Business Transformation 150 list. And it's quite an extensive number of conversations, as we've been involved in a lot of these conversations, I'd say, for the last 5 to 6 years.
Wow, and we touched on the pandemic and how it has helped, and perhaps provided a shot in the arm, excuse the pun, for those organisations. But are there any particular industry you've seen that have done digital really well, and maybe some that have done it really badly?
There's a lot of badly. And when we look at digital, a good friend of mine who is known as the father of digital transformation, I won't name him yet because he's in the middle of writing a book, but he's got a very important point. Most companies that have done digital and omni-channel have failed. They might say their digital has grown 40%, but their overall revenues have slipped 5 to 10%. And I think that's an important piece to understand. And so this digital approach isn't about omni-channel. This digital approach is about standing up a different business model, a different monetization model, and those have to be a unique organization to do that. But let's touch upon the issue of industries that you're bringing up, and I think that's a very important one. What we want to convey to everybody here is that value chains, data value chains in industries are collapsing. So, for example, manufacturing, retail, and distribution is the same business. It's the data value chains are all intertwined. Comms, media, entertainment, and tech are the same business. We have content, whether it's a movie, a software title, a video game, right? That's put into a distribution channel, which then goes out in a technology platform, which then goes out to a network of customers. It doesn't matter what industry that is still a digital piece of content that follows the same model. And so the business models have not changed. And in fact, in the digital world, there's only 6 monetization models: ads, search, goods, services, memberships, and subscriptions. And so many times a company in different business models are competing in the same monetization model. For example, let's take Google. It's $135 billion in 2020 in terms of ad revenues, but they do search for 4.4 billion users. Facebook does 2.8 billion users in terms of social media. Amazon has probably less than 500 million active users, but they're doing about 14.1 billion in digital advertising. So you've got commerce, search, social networks all competing for digital advertising dollars. We've never had anything like this before.
Wow. And the data element on that, you mentioned the data supply chain, the data chains, if you like, and a term I think you've also used is data supremacy. So talk me through that.
Yeah, it's an important piece, and I'll talk about data supremacy, and then I'll put it in the context of what digital giants do well. Data supremacy is this notion that everything we build going forward is built on what we call data-driven digital networks. These are your 100-year platforms. They bring in information, they bring in insight, they pull all that stuff together, and they create and use those feedback loops to get smarter over time. And the big concept that we're talking about is this need to compete for decision velocity. Humans make a decision per second, right? And we might take a week to get out of management committee, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks, maybe a month, maybe a year. But machines are making 1,000 decisions per second. That asymmetry is what we're competing against. Organizations who can actually make faster decisions, more accurate decisions, bring the data and the insights that they have to maybe mitigate risk, identify a huge opportunity, determine pricing changes, understand supply chain implications. Those are the types of things that are happening at the speed of thought. And that's one of the big changes. But let's take a step back. Let's think about what happened during the pandemic. And let me walk you through a digital giant. The poster child of digital transformation for us has been Domino's Pizza. It's been a wonderful stock, right? It's gone from $3 to $300 from 2009 to 2019. They've done amazingly well. And you'd say like they've won. There's 17 or 18 different ways you can order pizza, from Alexa onto a mobile site. You can order the pizza. It'll tell you it's at the oven. It's 10 minutes away from your home. It's 5 minutes. It's about to be delivered. And so by all means, they've won the battle for digital transformation. I mean, they've done amazing. But what happened during the pandemic? Small businesses all around the world gave up their customers to delivery apps like Deliveroo, right? And Grubhub, right? And what happened over time? Well, they disintermediated customer account control. In fact, the customers not only got disintermediated their restaurants away, the restaurants disintermediated their customers away. They basically gave them their payment information, their transaction history, and pretty soon you go to a food delivery app first before you go to the restaurant. And then on top of that, what they started to do is they use that data and mine that data to understand what were buying patterns. Maybe Thai food did better in your postal code than, Italian food. Maybe German food did better than Turkish food in this other postal code. And we suddenly started to see this type of, data being used. And pretty soon they were using it for ads and search and other monetization models, memberships and subscriptions. While that was going on, small businesses who had hundreds, maybe thousands of customers, basically had their customers aggregated into a larger network. And these food delivery apps went from thousands of customers to millions of customers. And pretty soon, their digital monetization got really good, but they can get to the point where they could actually lose hundreds of millions of dollars, but small businesses couldn't do that. And they could go out and compete for market share and build ghost kitchens and compete head off. And so these 5 things, customer account control disintermediation, the battle for the largest network, competing on data supremacy, digital monetization, and more importantly, a long-term mindset that allows them to lose money, allowed food delivery apps to completely clobber everybody else from behind. Now, what does Domino's do in a situation like that? That's the most important question. If you're Domino's, what happens, right? And so that's the battle. They're getting crushed by food delivery apps and ghost kitchens in the long run because, I don't know, how often do you order a pizza from Domino's? Once a month? I don't know, maybe once a week at best? How often do you order from food delivery apps? It's multiple times a day for some people. And that's the difference. And that's what's going on at the moment. And that's why these digital giants are so powerful.
It's incredible, isn't it? And I suppose that's what when you talk about your data-driven digital networks, that's exactly mapping that out.
Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Sug Talks. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you that our UKI Sug Connect conference is back. Join us as we present Vision 2021, planning for the future at the ICC in Birmingham from the 28th to the 30th of November. With keynotes, 12 breakout streams, over 70 exhibitors and networking events, all aimed at driving success for the SAP community, make sure you attend the premier SAP-related event in the UK and Ireland. We're going above and beyond government and public health guidance to ensure the event is delivered in a safe and secure environment for you. We look forward to welcoming you back to Birmingham, where we can all learn and develop together. To learn more, visit sapusers.org/connect.
And so when we look at those digital giants, you mentioned the Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix earlier, and I heard them called earlier today in a conversation FANG, those sexy digital giants, if you like, those sexy tech companies. And so how can organizations, look to adapt and change to thrive alongside those?
Yeah, we often say build, partner, or perish. And partner is going to be the place where most people are going to work out potential opportunities. And some of those opportunities, for example, are getting together into coalitions that are serving a common cause or a common purpose. In some cases, there's going to be leaders in every industry and every kind of sector where they're going to bring together all the players together, but not in consortiums. We hate consortiums. We think consortiums don't work. They're like the UN. Everybody sits there and talks and nothing gets done until they try to get the consensus. We actually think a model that will pop up called the joint venture startup will emerge. And these are partnerships with, the large global cloud companies like a Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, and a industry leader and the entire data value chain, which is the ecosystem. And that ecosystem, whether it's a supplier, a partner, and maybe even customers that they partner with, to go out and deliver to compete against Amazon.
And back to what we were saying earlier about the size of these organizations, the growth of these organizations, and something you touched on earlier, right at the beginning of our discussion, was, if you like, a free and fair market. How do we ensure a free and fair market, with the vast growth and potentially monopolization from these organizations?
It is a really important point. Let's start out first. I am an unabashed free market capitalist living in San Francisco. I'm a rare bird, as you can imagine. But the reason I am, and let me explain why, is that capitalism has empowered so many people to be successful. It's lifted boats. It's enabled a lot of opportunities. There might be downfalls in capitalism, but the benefits still outweigh. In the case of digital giants, we have a unique situation. And what we have to study carefully first is a cost-benefit analysis. Are your prices going up, Craig? Are you having less choices in the market and the ecosystem? Do you feel that innovation is being stifled? Are there public good capabilities that are no longer being delivered by these digital giants? Do you feel that companies are being swallowed up by digital giants so that there are no new opportunities in the marketplace? The answer at this point has been no. Right? For the most part, the answer has been no. When that changes to a conversation around yes, then we have a very different scenario. Then we have to go out and actually enforce the antitrust laws that we have in place. But there are two more things we can do. Remember, these companies, the digital giants in general, are making money off of your personal data, your private data, your genomics, your digital exhaust. Well, we can change that. Right? We can turn that personal property, personal identifiable information into a property right. We buy homes and we have land titles. We create ideas and inventions. We have innovations and trademarks and patents. Well, in the digital economy, we need to actually protect our individuals' personal information rights. And that personal data should be a property right. Every country in the world, every jurisdiction in the world already has rules for property rights. You don't have to change tort reform. You don't have to change legislation to do that. The only thing you have to do in your country is to make that data a property right. So when someone infringes on that property right, meaning they're using that information without your permission, one, they need consent. Two, there needs to be some level of value exchange. Sure, you want to go deliver and donate your data to the NHS for some clinical trial? That's wonderful. But if it's AstraZeneca, maybe they should pay you £500 to do it, right? It's that kind of stuff that will happen. Now, the third thing on top of that is this notion of data portability. Remember a long time ago when, you wanted to change your carrier, but you couldn't change your phone. You would have to be forced to change your phone number. That was number portability. So you could keep your number and move to different carriers. And that allowed competition, right? At that point, you could go to all the different carriers you wanted, whether it was BT or O2 or Vodafone or whoever you wanted to go to, right? Well, the same thing has to happen in the digital world for data portability, where all my information on my social media platform, including the metadata and the contacts and all my interaction history, imagine if I could move that to a different social network. Would you do that? Yes. You now have the ability to do that and create that competitive environment. And that you can do when the social networks, when your digital giants, when your search engine, right, when they're not providing a good level of competition and fair and free access, that's when the governments can actually institute data portability. And you should be building to those standards at this moment. Every country should be thinking about that to deliver on that data portability concept. So I think that's a very important piece. There's some other legislation that doesn't make sense to me. I know there's a lock on Apple's App Store and Google's Google App Store and Play Store. That's stupid. You own a mall, you own a supermarket chain, you decide what gets placed on the shelf, what you price, and what promotions you have and how much you take a cut of. You cannot legislate that. That is just not free markets at all, right? You can encourage other app stores to be developed. You can provide that capability, but to tell a store owner you can only charge X, Y, and Z, and you have to take X promotion, I mean, that is the meaning of socialism. So that is just not acceptable in a free market economy. So
that's really interesting. I'd just like to go back to that data portability piece, if I may, which will, I think will be exceptional if we can get that right. But it also begs the question of something that we hear a lot of, and we hear about the hackings, etc., and that cyber security, and how we really need to get better, not just from an organizational perspective, but a personal perspective on securing that information.
Oh, Craig, you're completely right. Cybersecurity is the worst, right? We got to get away from the shame of not reporting an attack to the collective action of actually using the information about attacks to prevent the next attack, right? The attack surfaces have increased given the remote work environment and the use of devices across the edge, right? The capabilities of attackers have improved with AI. They're using AI to battle humans, and we're losing. It's pretty obvious, right? And we're using crypto to actually pay ransomware out, which needs some level of regulation at some point to make sure that we can actually track that and not have that as a ransomware funding mechanism. Right. So I think those are things that are going to happen. But cybersecurity is still the number one issue for technology leaders and businesses around the world.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so obviously lots have been covered there, some great information, great insight. How can our listeners perhaps apply some of these learnings? What would be the first step?
Yeah, I think the first step in every organization is to go out and understand what your business model is and what your monetization model looks like. And so, for example, if you think you're really a manufacturer of homes, or if you are actually, for example, if you're a manufacturer of homes, are you really a manufacturer of homes? What may happen in the future to housing? And really understand the economics of behind the business models. Is it about home ownership, or is it about the rental business going forward? If it's about the rental business and a subscription model, which is what rent typically is, or rent to own is in kind of a format like that, then you start thinking about, okay, what experiences, what services, what do you want to provide? If you realize that, then you can start by finding your largest network. Where's your biggest number of devices, connected items, membership, subscriptions? And that's what you really want to do, is you want to target your largest network, and that's your core. That's your base of what you're able to do. And you start thinking about, what can I cross-sell and upsell into that existing network? What are adjacent value chains? What type of data and insights do I need to continue to fill the data-driven digital network, which is your platform? And that's where you start. But a simpler way to think about this is, let's just get our basic analytics right, ask your business questions, let's get to some level automation of a process and data collection, and let's figure out how to start applying those learnings to AI. And we can even simplify it even more, focus on those 3 A's, analytics, automation, and AI.
Thank you. And obviously we know each other through the world of SAP. And these digital giants, if you like, are moving into the whole digital space, and we see that within the world of ERP. And so how is this affecting the ERP world? Not just SAP, the whole ERP world. What are the challenges and the opportunities for those vendors?
Yeah, there is a massive opportunity. We're seeing already in the public cloud infrastructure wars between AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft, right? Just even SAP is trying to figure out, who is their preferred cloud vendor or hoster of choice, right? That's already one factor where this is happening. The other factor is occurring in terms of, the ability to actually build partnerships at the industry level. And you see that. You saw Ford choose Google. You saw Microsoft choose GM choose Microsoft, and those types of things are going to happen. This choosing of sides and technology providers is going to continue. What that means in your ERP environment is that you have to start thinking about the role of that ERP. Is the ERP a transactional system, or is it strategic to business? If it's strategic to business, what are you doing with that information and insight, and how are you extracting that information and applying it to a different department, applying it to a different part of the organization, so that you can ask those business questions that are important. And I think that's where we're going to see what happens to any core ERP system, especially SAP, and how it transitions into the digital world. I mean, a lot's been said about RISE. People see the roadmap, but what RISE has done is actually caused a lot of organizations to actually ask themselves, how badly will I stay on SAP and at what cost? And I think that's an important factor. And then where does it fit with our overall business plan in the post-pandemic world? All right. And so if some folks who are betting on SAP have doubled down on SAP to do that, other folks have said, maybe what I really want to do is extract the data that I need there and align it to something that's doing journey orchestration or building experiences or tied back to some AI ML model on the back end so that I can start getting smarter about this. Maybe I should do a better job around process mining or RPA so that I can actually reduce the amount of manual and human intervention that's there, so that we can actually get to that concept we talked about around precision decisions. And maybe I should actually improve my integration landscape so that I can actually get to the analytics and start answering business questions instead of answering vanity metrics like, oh, how many viewers came to my website? We want to answer the questions like, how many viewers actually got converted and actually made purchases? Or how many viewers actually forwarded information or insight or referred a friend, right? So we're going from vanity to actionable metrics, right? But to do that, that's why it's so important to bring all these different systems together.
Fantastic. We certainly live through exciting and perhaps in some cases scary times as we go through this life. And just coming to a close now, Rafe, overall, what do you think the future of business will look like?
I think the future of business is going to be more data-driven. I think the future of business is going to be more automated. I think the future of business is going to be about more value systems or value ecosystems that are out there. It's the insight on the data and the transactions that actually give companies a competitive advantage. The problem for most organizations are they're too small to have the volume of data that's required to get to those precision decisions. And so we will see more partnerships. We'll see more industry coalitions come together. And what's going to happen is that's needed to get to the data to be able to compete. So we'll see more of that. And then, of course, we'll still see the digital giants continually be successful despite their size as they get into different industries and different levels of partnerships.
Fantastic. So, Ray, I understand your book, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Surviving and Thriving in a World of Digital Giants, is already available in the UK.
That's what I've heard. So I'm really excited, looking forward to it. Hope everyone gets a copy of the book, and maybe I'll be able to chance to see you guys at your conference as well.
Oh, fantastic. Let's look at how we can make that happen. And so your book, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Surviving and Thriving in a World of Digital Giants. And Amazon and all good booksellers, I assume?
Go there, and wherever books are sold, you can definitely find that as well. So.
Okay, and the one thing I also noted when I had a look is that there's an audio book, so we can actually listen to you deliver it as well.
Yes, I did about 8.5 hours of audio recording, and that's available. It's also available on Kindle, and of course, I did self-narrate. So,
Oh, fantastic. Well, Ray, thank you very much for your time and your insights. Very, very valuable. And we look forward to having you back at the conference soon. And to our listeners, thank you very much for being with us today. And we hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it very valuable. So until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.